here.
All right, Drew, you're looking for
some labels.
You're looking for a connector Papa 205. That'll be on cable Whiskey 2260.
Okay, I have 2260 in my hand, Papa 205.
And just a note, Drew, you will be back to the same handrail for that very next cable once you get this routed.
Now, Mike, there was a pre-stage or some wire ties we were going to do on 8 and 14.
And that's correct. And we're thinking you might be able to do that once you get this handed off to Nick.
Okay.
A view now from Nick Hague's helmet cam, camera number 11, as he's taking pictures of the cable that he just routed.
And for Nick, just as you're routing the cable, we'll take a short wire tie on node 2 handrail 344 for that Papa 205 cable that you have with you right now. We'd like you to go for the stanchions if possible and try to keep the handrail itself clear. And once you have that one,
back here in Mission Control Houston, the flight control team is under the direction of lead flight director Scott Stover. And the ground intervehicular communicator, or ground IV today, is Mike Barrett. You've heard his voice back and forth with the crew conducting the spacewalk today, and you'll continue to hear his voice through the duration of the spacewalk as he continues to move through those procedures with the crew.
We'd like you to take the first securing on handrail 344 for the cable you're working. And I'm not sure how much it got out there, but try to go for the stanchions on those handrails to leave the handrail proper clear. And once we get that wire tied, then we'll have you routed directly and hand off to Nick, and we'll get the wire ties on the way back.
Okay, so the first one for the orange-white cable to 344.
That's a good copy, and that'll let you get the cable under the aft port CBM pedal.
Copy. A mess down there. Yeah. I'd offer to come down and help, but I don't think me getting in that is going to help. Not a lot of room. No. On steady, you're making good progress. Those cables look nice and flat behind you. 344 to a stanchion. We can go up around the pedal.
And Drew, we see you working. Just a reminder to both, this is our first full installation with you out there. Remember that the PMA surfaces can get pretty warm, so avoid prolonged direct contact.
Copy that. Copy, Mike.
And station for EVA for Nick. While you're there in the APFR, we'd like you to take as good a look as you can at the IDA PMA3 interface and just verify that there's no undue gap there and that it seems to be evenly seated.
Okay, and work.
And just for both of you, we do have 2 RTH indications already.
That's great news. Mike, I can see down the interface, good solid 120 degrees or more, definitely less than a half inch.
Okay, we copy. Good to hear.
RTH, the acronym for Ready to Hook, which these cables that are being routed right now will provide heater power and ready-to-hook sensor capability, and the hook motor power that will be used to drive the gangs of hooks closed.
Established on 343. I'm sorry, 344. You can route directly to Nick.
Copy. Directly to Nick after that 344, and we're going forward on this pedal.
That's correct. Under the it's the aft port pedal and forward on it. That's correct.
Mike, the team was correct. This is a hot work area. I had to bump up my cooling by 1 notch.
Okay, we understand.
Make sure that it's the P205 connector on this one, correct, Mike?
That's affirmative. Papa 205.
There's a twist in the cables just below your left elbow. Yeah, and you're pulling up on one that's tied down in a different location. Yep. Is that around your arm? Yeah, it's on my arm. Oh, okay.
Now, right at an hour and a half into today's spacewalk, the two spacewalkers today, Nick Hague in his third spacewalk and Andrew Morgan conducting his career first spacewalk today to install the International Docking Adapter 3 to Pressurized Mating Adapter 3, providing a second port for the future arrival of commercial crew vehicles. You can see Nick Hague EV1 bearing the red stripes on his suit on the IDA 3 right now, routing some cables.
And the heck out of any workstation and effector. Yeah.
And station for EVA.
Forces on you.
And for Nick, since you've got a little wait time here, we'd like you to come out of the APFR and pre-stage a wire tie on handrail 1608. It'll be just zenith of Drew port F face of the PMA.
Understand.
Again, APFR, the acronym for Articulating Portable Foot Restraint, which is hooked up to an interface point on the Harmony module at the work site, where the spacewalkers will plant their feet for stability as they continue to move through these procedures today.
All right, I see you right there, and to move this orange-white cable. Copy.
And for Nick, once you get to the handrail 1608, we'll take a wire tie on the forward port stanchion And once you get that in place, if you're able to get the handoff of the cable from Drew, we'll let you take that up and re-ingress the APFR.
Sounds good. Did you want that to be a long or a short?
And a short will do for that one.
It works. A breather for a minute here. I'll put this wire tie down, then I'll take the cable from you. Okay, Mike, I've got a wire tied down on the forward port stanchion of handrail 1608.
Okay, we see it, looks good, and we see the cable passing hands.
Is there red on it? Let me clean that. Go ahead and take that. With you here to try to get this out.
And while you're both out of the APFRs, just verify both your safety tethers are clear of the cables that we're dragging here.
Mine is clear. It's to my feet, away from the cable we're dragging, and I can see Drew's going away as well. We're good. Check though.
Copy. Thanks.
Is that taut? No, we're at the Y, so that's it. This is the Y, yeah. Yeah, so that's as much as the pull? Yeah, I think so. And so, Mike, we're expecting a Y then in this cable that's just beyond the 344 handrail that I connected down to. Go to this side of the pedal. Then down on handrail 3814.
Okay, the Y is expected. It looks like you guys have it well in hand. And just a reminder, we want all the slack pushed up towards the IDA 3 that we can.
Copy. Is that all the slack? That is all the slack because that's, that's good. It's not against structure. I can keep working it down here.
All right, that's looking good to us. And when you get that handover complete, Drew, you are going to retranslate back to handrail 343, the same place you got the last cable, and start bringing the next cable forward. That'll be Whiskey 2258.
So 2258, that's the purple one, I think.
That's correct. And you'll be looking for Papa 207 as the connector.
207.
The International Space Station is currently flying 260 statute miles above the Atlantic Ocean as the spacewalkers continue to move through with the procedures today.
Mike, I've got that tied down on 1408 and 1614. 1608 and 1614.
Okay, we copy. That's great. And just for Drew, you'll be routing this next cable along the exact same route.
Copy.
Okay, I see the cable connector P207.
Okay, that's the one.
I'm back in the APFR, Mike.
All right, we copy, Nick. Then with that, again, just take another look at your safety tethers before we make the connection, but you can pull the cap off of 205 and stow that on the cap keeper.
Copy. And work. Safety tethers are clear. I can see both.
Copy and thanks. And Papa 205, Nick, will attach to the jumper 5A, whenever you're ready.
VMI band, get pins, no 5. Get J5A, Papa 05. Okay. Made it over center.
Okay, we see that made it over center. Great work. And for Drew, just a reminder, only uncoil what you need to make the routing. You'll be headed first to handrail 344 to get onto the short wire ties, the same as the last cable.
And the second cable has now been routed, as we just saw from Nick Haig, as EV1's helmet camera number 11.
Mike, I'm bundling these just a little bit for a temp stow so that it's easier to translate around all these cables.
Okay, good words. And just a reminder, Nick, that orange-white cable you just made of the Papa 205 connector eventually mates directly to the IDA connector panel. And I think you have enough slack to do that, correct?
Yeah, I do. And if I don't, I'll release this loop and take care of it then. But it's getting to be a lot of cable right in front of me where I'm going to have to egress the APFR.
Okay, understand. We like your temp stow plan there, Nick.
Some background on the cables being routed during the EVA today. These cables were brought outside on a previous EVA almost 5 years ago. They've baked in the sun during that time, so the cables were expected to be difficult to manipulate and route. That is why the Capcom here is asking them to be a little bit careful when coiling them.
We can go the length, and then I can come back and tack them down behind him.
Okay, that works for us, Drew. And Nick, it sounds like you have a good handle on 1608 and 1614 handrails to secure it. Drew, we'll have you go back once you hand that cable over and attach to 1603, handrail 1603.
Copy.
And you can feel the surfaceless PMA heating out.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Slack here. Long.
Okay. Would you want to take it the full length, and I'll come behind you?
Sure. Got it. Need a twist? I'll hold it in place.
Yeah.
this one in?
That's 8, and then
14.
We need one at 3.
There's 14.
How much slack left over?
Oh, tons.
Tons, okay.
Yeah. I'm tying myself up on all these cables.
Mike, we have not put a wire tie down on 1603 yet.
Yeah.
Like us to do that. It's right. Okay.
You need slack to make that happen?
And yes, we would like the wire tie on 1603 for both of the cables you just routed past there. If you can use the integrated on there, that works for us. And we would prefer the aft stanchion on 1603, but whatever works best for you.
Okay, I got it at the aft stanchion. There's the pre-integrated here belongs to another cable. I don't want to pull that into the mix.
Okay, we understand, Drew. We would like all the cables as flush as possible, the ones we're routing and the ones that are already there. Your discretion whether you can use an integrated or have to put down one of your own. And for Nick, just a reminder that the purple cable will be temp stowed at handrail 1614 or 1615 at your discretion.
Copy. I'm putting it down at 1614.
Okay, we understand.
A purple cable is temp stowed on the handrail of 1614.
Okay, we copy. Stand by. Just big picture words. Once we get the cables tacked down here, this will complete the aft initial install, the aft panel initial install, and it will be going to the forward cable install. And for Drew, once you're finished tacking down the wires, we'll have you do a good gap check, look at the PMA IDA3 interface as you go around towards your APFR.
Copy.
You want me to translate to the forward side and start looking for cables?
And Nick, you are indeed go for that. You'll be looking for a TA clamp Charlie 5 and to pre-stage a short wire tie on that. That's right on the forward face, just to the port of your ORU bag.
Okay, copy. Can work. I gotta say, Mike, it is one amazing view looking off the front of the station.
Yeah, you guys are over Africa there. It must be amazing. And Nick, we're going to add one other thing. As you translate past the ORU bag, if you could grab the forward panel cap keeper and deploy that up on the IDA handrail. And that's IDA handrail Okay, and that's 1406 up on the IDA.
1406.
Okay, we got it wire tied on 3 and 8, and I'll translate to the forward side.
All right, well done, and I know those wires are stiff and difficult to handle, but it looks like you got them under control. And just a reminder to give us a good gap check at the IDA PMA3 interface.
Copy.
Mike, the capkeeper adjustable is on 1406, and the red still goes back to the large door E-bag.
Okay, we see that, Nick. It looks great, and you'll be dropping down to put the wire tie on TA clamp Charlie 5.
Okay. And the gap check on this side, Mike, looks very consistent, and it is less than half an inch.
All right, we copy that. That's great. And Nick, Drew, you can come around and get in a position to ingress the APFR. Just a reminder, use the ingress aid, avoid those tempting handrails on the IDA, and we are getting a little bit of toggling with the RTHs. That's probably due to translation, but we're just going to be very careful with that interface.
Copy that.
Now, right at an hour and 50 minutes into today's spacewalk, ground controllers here in Mission Control Houston are reporting that the spacewalkers today are right on the timeline, having completed the initial connection of critical cables.
And for both, 30 seconds to a short handover.
Nick Hague and Andrew Morgan will now move to the forward panel. Andrew Morgan will ingress the foot restraint while Nick Hague routes the cables this time.
How you doing?
All right, just getting this ended here.
Slow and steady. Get her done.
The two cables that will be routed next will provide power and data to the hooks that will drive between PMA3 and IDA3 to form a hard mate. Here in Mission Control Houston, the flight control team is under the direction of lead flight director Scott Stover in the middle of your screen.
And Station Houston back with you after a short handover. And just for Nick, the next step, once you get the wire tie on the TA clamp, will be to retrieve a cable from handrail 326. That'll be one of the spoke handrails, a little bit port of where you are right now, down on the end cone.
And that was, of course, the voice of intervehicular communicator or ground IV today, Mike Barrett. You'll continue to hear his voice as the crews make their way through the procedures, and you'll continue to hear his voice all the way through the end of the spacewalk today.
Okay, we see that and concur with the long tie, no issues. And Nick, you'll be looking for the blue cable. That'll be connector Papa 203 down there on handrail 326.
Copy.
And reminder, that is a two-legged cable. 203 is what you're looking for. 208 will eventually be routed to the aft panel.
Okay, I've got 203 in hand.
Okay, and if it's helpful, that's Whiskey 2256, but it looks like you've got the right one, and you'll be routing that under the forward port CBM pedal and securing that with the wire tie you just put on Charlie 5.
Understand, can work. Mike, in the APFR, we've got good access to the work site.
Okay, great work, Drew. With that, you can demate the caps from J300 and J400 and stow those on the cap keeper.
We're getting a view now from helmet camera number 18, which is that of Andrew Morgan's. This is the connector port you're looking at on the side of the international docking adapter that will receive a series of power and data connectors a short time from now. Those connectors are required before the hooks are commanded to be driven, which will then form the hard mate between IDA and PMA. Furthermore, these initial power and data connectors to the connector port on the IDA that you're looking at right now will provide hook motor power, the ready-to-hook sensors and heaters for the new docking port.
We see it.
.400 removed.
Okay, great. And for you, Drew, you'll be receiving the blue cable from Nick. And again, we'll want a good eye on the safety tethers, make sure they're not trapped before we mate this connector.
Copy that. Some more coming up your way. On my left shoulder. Yeah, I have it in my hand. That's as tight as I can get it. Does that give you enough slack? Plenty. Okay.
And
Mike, I've got P203 in my hand.
Okay, we copy. For Nick, before you go too far, if you're able to tuck that cable under the CBM pedal there a little better, that would help us get it tacked down a little better. And and for Drew, you're going to uncap P203, stow that cap on the cap keeper, and that will be mating to J300.
Copy.
And we like your routing, Nick.
A view now from helmet camera number 11, which is that of Nick Hagues, or EV1. He is routing cables right now to Andrew Morgan.
understand. Okay, the cap from 203 is removed.
Okay, we'll take a connector check prior to mating.
Okay, okay, and so I'm checking the J300 side, 5 good pins, and I'm looking on the plug side, the 5 VMI band. All right.
Okay, we like it. Your go to mate to IJ J300. And again, try to minimize the loads into the IDA if you can.
Now reaching the 2-hour mark into today's spacewalk. The spacewalk officially began at 7:27 a.m. Central Time this morning. Nick Hague and Andrew Morgan still working on track with the timeline, having completed the initial connection of critical cables to a connector panel.
And Nick, just a reminder, your close proximity to the grapple fixture there. We put you in an inconvenient place.
Yep. Reminding me it's there.
Now in switched roles, the crew members are working on the forward panel. Andrew Morgan now in the foot restraint while Nick Hague routes the cables to him.
Mike, J300 made it over center.
Okay, we saw it. It looks great. And your next step will be to retrieve the red and white cable from Nick, and that should be Papa 204.
Copy, I got Papa 204.
Mike, I'm staring at handrail 1602. I think we put a long wire tie on that later on. You want me to knock that out now?
And sure, you can go ahead and do that. A long wire tied to handrail 1602. Zenith stanchion, please.
Okay.
A view now from Andrew Morgan's helmet camera. Again, he is helmet camera number 18. He and Nick Hague are working to install 2 cables that will provide power and data to the hooks that will drive between PMA-3 and IDA-3. You can see on the control panel on the right side of your screen that one of those cables has already been routed. Morgan and Hague are now working to route the second cable to the control panel.
Okay, no FOD on the plug side. On the J400 side, no bent pins. No FOD.
Okay, if the EMI band looks good, you go to mate that to J400.
Copy that. I can confirm the EMI band looks good.
Okay, great. You're go to connect, and for Nick, you're doing such a great job laying the wire ties. We'll take one on PMA3 handrail 1601 as well. That's the big vertical handrail there, and we'll take that on the nadir stanchion.
Nadir stanchion, I understand. Mike J400 mated over center.
Okay, terrific. And just for next steps, guys, for Nick, once you get the wire tie done, and for Drew, we'll have you take one more look at that interface. But we are about to start quiescent ops and the hook driving. So once you get that wire tie laid, Nick, you can go to a place that you can stick around for a while.
Another view of the control panel on the right side of your screen right now, where 2 cables have been routed.
One onto the zenith stanchion of 1602, and then I'll bug out.
Okay, sounds great.
Again, the 2 cables you see right now will provide power and data to the hooks that will drive between PMA3 and IDA3 moments from now.
Come back. I got it. All right. Zenith stanchion of 1602. We have a handrail. We have the wire ties in place.
Okay, we copy that. And just to clarify, was that both 1601 and 1602 got their wire ties?
Negative, Mike. I didn't get the 1601 yet.
1602, Mike.
Okay, we'll hold off on 1601, and we'll have both of you get to a good quiescent place, and we'll start driving the hooks.
I've got a BRT down, and I'm staying in the APFR.
Okay, we see that for both, and just a reminder that both need to remain quiescent while the first gang of hooks is completely driven, and you can do a glove and hap check as you like and take all the photos you can.
Good.
And just for planning, you're about 3.5 minutes to a night pass.
Everything is in place now to begin the driving of the hooks that will permanently mate the International Docking Adapter 3 to PMA 3. Again, the installation of IDA 3 today will provide a second docking port to the International Space Station to accommodate the future arrivals of commercial crew vehicles.
One more to go. So, Mike, my map is dry, and looking at that flap on my right index finger, and it's still there, still present.
Okay, we copy dry.
Got I have a flap on the and I have a flap on the right thumb panel and on the left thumb panel. And on the left index finger second panel in. They're just flaps.
Okay, we copy, Drew. And again, we're still good to go on that. We're watching closely. Could you give us a real quick gap check, just what you can see of the interface between the IDA and PMA?
looks like a half inch all around where I can see it from here. It's exactly like it was on the port side when I was translating over here.
Okay, we copy and thanks. And Nick, we'll take a glove and half check from you when possible.
Yep, I checked. Gloves are good. No change. Half's dry.
Okay, we copy. Good glove and half check. And we're going quiescent now.
And the crew has now gone quiescent for the driving of the hooks. Getting a view now of the control panel inside the Harmony module of the International Space Station. This is the same view that NASA astronaut Christina Cook is getting.
Houston copies.
Houston Station on space to ground 1, closing hooks gang 1 in 3, 2, 1, mark.
And the command has been issued for the first gang of hooks to close. Again, Christina Cook just sent commands from a control panel inside the Harmony module to begin driving the first gang of hooks. There are 6 hooks for each gang, totaling 12 hooks altogether. Structural integrity is considered sound if both of the hook gangs are closed and engaged for visiting vehicles to begin arriving at the International Space Station.
In a sunset.
The first gang of hooks now driving as the crew members remain quiescent outside of the IDA. And for reference, the expected execution time for this gang of hooks to close is expected to be about 5.5 minutes.
How's your cooling going?
I haven't touched it. Things in good place.
Nice. Get that set during insulation. Everything's working out fine now. So I found my sweet spot. more. I don't know if you can see over my shoulder the connectors that are on the ground. They're on the two connectors right over my shoulder.
Yeah.
The bundle that's right next to them. I think that's your cable. One that's nicely bundled.
Yeah. It's the green cables we're looking for.
And if you're just joining us, we just reached the 2-hour and 15-minute mark in today's spacewalk. Currently, the two spacewalkers are quiescent outside of the PMA and IDA, while the first gang of hooks are driven.
Hooks gang 1 close light and multimeter reading registered within 10 seconds of each other. Timer result for the first indicator was 4 minutes and 28 seconds. The all closed indicator is lit. Moving to Hooks gang 2, EV is go for translation on PMA, but not IDA.
And we just received confirmation from NASA astronaut Christina Cook at the commands of the control panel inside the Harmony module that the first gang of hooks are closed. Getting a live view now of that control panel inside of Harmony. This is the same view that NASA astronaut Christina Cook is getting right now, and the same one she got before she sent those commands.
And Station Houston for EVA, with good hook driving, we would like Nick to go ahead and deploy the portable wireless camera. So you are go to translate over to the ORU bag, and the camera should be powered on. We would just be looking for LEDs. And Nick, while you're in transit, I have to tell you that 3 lovely ladies have come in, one of which claims to be your mother and has made delicious food for everybody.
I heard she was busy in the kitchen yesterday. I hope everyone enjoys it. I'm jealous.
Well, we have a certain jealousy of what you guys are doing as well, so I'd say it's an even trade.
Okay. I can confirm I've got a good LED on the portable wireless camera, Mike.
Okay, that sounds great, and that will go down onto the PMA-3, and we're looking... Station Houston for EVA, back with you. And Nick, you'll be looking for handrail 413 down on PMA 2, and I see you with the camera in tow there.
Copy. 413. Tally ho.
Nick, as you place that, a reminder to point it towards the PMA-3 port grapple fixture.
Okay. I've got it. On handrail 13, put paddles out and locked.
Okay, that's great. We'll let you orient it, and we'll be looking for an adjustable tether on PMA2 handrail 0405.
Just moments ago, the second gang of hooks were initiated to begin closing. Again, about a 5.5-minute procedure, and after the second gang is driven, we will have a hard mate between the new docking adapter and the space station.
Yep. Stand by, Drew. And Drew, for now, we're just going to have you stay put. You're going to be retrieving cables. Once we get the other gang of hooks, we'll be ready to mate those, but you can stay quiescent for now. And for Nick, a couple of issues with the PWC. We'd like one power cycle, and so you're go to power it off.
Okay. It's off.
And you can go ahead and power it on.
Okay, that'll work. Right on. I got a good green light on the tower, and BAT1 and BAT2 are green.
Okay, we copy for both. And Nick, we're not quite receiving video from it yet, but do your best to point it up towards the work site, and we'll send you on your way.
Great. Okay.
Roughly 4 minutes and 45 seconds left in this second gang of hooks being driven. Again, once that second gang is driven, we will have a hard mate between the new docking adapter and the space station.
I'm on my way back to Drew.
Okay, and Nick, your next thing will be to grab the red cable, and that will be up on handrail 317. That's on node 2. That's one of the rim, the circumferential handrails, just part of the center.
Roger.
And for Nick, the cable you're looking for on 317 will have a Papa 202 connector.
Understand, Mike. It's been bundled together with the next one on after as well, so I've got to release them both.
Okay, we copy.
And live views now from Nick Haig's camera, which is helmet camera number 11, as he continues to route cables.
Wi-Fi on 1601.
While Andrew Morgan remains quiescent, or meaning still or inactive, as these hooks are being driven. Ground controllers here in Mission Control Houston reporting that the crew is about 10 minutes ahead of schedule today. The portion of the international docking adapter on the bottom of your screen right now that has a thermal insulation cover over it, that thermal insulation cover will be removed during the spacewalk today, and that portion of the IDA is called the Passive Soft Capture System. That's the portion where the commercial crew vehicles, the SpaceX Crew Dragon and the Boeing CST-100 Starliner vehicles will dock to. That passive soft capture system has 3 guide pedals, 3 latch strikers, and 3 soft capture sensors that will transition the International Space Station to free drift right before contact and capture for the arrival of future commercial crew vehicles.
But we'll be temp stowing the cables that Nick is bringing up towards you.
Copy, and I think that temp stow is on that fire ties that we put on 1602.
That's affirmative.
It's more, it may be easier if I hand it to you with the bundle still in for the temp stow.
Copy.
And then I'll pin it down to the wire tie.
Okay, I have it in my hand.
Got it? Okay, I'm going to get it on the wire tie. Take up a little bit of the slack. Okay. Put that down.
Copy.
And for Drew, once you get that cable temp stowed, we'll have you go ahead and get a cap keeper hook on the forward IDA tether D-ring, the AET that you put there. We'll release that tether from the IDA tether point and the PMA3 handrail 1602, but we want to be sure you put the cap keeper on the AET D-ring so it gives you 2 extra tether points.
Okay, copy.
And for Nick, we're sending you to handrail 316, actually, for the orange cable. This is Papa 201.
Copy that. That is not what I have in my hand. Papa 201. No, it is. Okay.
And Nick, that'll go up the same routing you just did.
Mike, I'm going to use this pre-integrated on the, just temp stow it on 1602 because I want to use the one that I just put on 1602 pre-staged. Keep it nice and neat for the final cleanup.
Okay, that works, Drew. No problem.
More when you're ready, I got the next one to hand to you.
Copy. I have it.
Got it. I need to throw a wire tie in down here. Wire ties in.
And for both, it looks like our hooks are driven, and we're in a great stable config with the IDA-3. Drew, we'll hold off on that adjustable retrieval for just now and get you started on the caps on IDA. So you are going to remove caps from J1 and J2.
Okay, copy that.
And for Nick, your next cable conquest will be the yellow cable. That'll be on Node 2 handrail 358. That's on the Node 2 Zenith longitudinal handrail just port of PMA3.
And hand. Mike, just to make sure that J1 and J2 caps are going to go directly on the cap keeper.
That's affirmative.
And we received confirmation moments ago from Spacewalk communicator Scott Stover.
Papa 2 connector beneath the forward port CBM pedal, and then to the Charlie 5 TA clamp wire tie.
Understand.
All 12 hooks have been closed to form a hard mate between the new International Docking Adapter and Pressurized Mating Adapter 3.
J1 cap removed. Things look good.
We copy.
And the J2 cap's removed, and the pins are also nicely intact. They look good.
Okay, we copy. Your next step is going to be to move the blue cable, that's 2256, from J300 to J3. So what we'll have you do is ret to the cap on J3 and remove that.
Again, moments ago, all 12 hooks were confirmed to have been driven to form a hard mate between the new International Docking Adapter 3 and to Pressurized Mating Adapter 3. Again, the International Space Station now has a second port for the future arrivals of U.S. commercial crew vehicles, made official just moments ago.
Okay, we copy that. And you go to demate Papa 203 from J300.
Okay, demate at J300. Just going to give you a check on the back on J3. The pins look good and there's no FOD. On J1.
Nick Hague and Andrew Morgan now working to reroute power from the interfaces between the connectors that were hooked up just a short time ago to provide the hook motor power. The reconfigurations are underway now that are scheduled to take place over the next hour or so that will route power and heating to the top portion of the International Docking Adapter, or the passive soft capture system we talked about earlier, to which the new commercial crew vehicles will be linking up to.
Okay, we copy that. It'll then go to handrail 1602. And for Drew, if it's helpful to you, you can demate 204 from J400 if you need the room there.
I think we're almost there. Okay, J300 is demated.
And we see it. Okay.
And then we're mating at J3.
And that's affirmative.
Okay, EMI band is still good, no FOD. They called no FOD and no pins on J3.
Okay, we copy your go to mate.
Again, some of these cables are being demated and rerouted to shift the power from the hook closure to the other side of the docking adapter, the side to which the U.S. commercial crew vehicles will dock to.
And for both, the hooks are completely driven, so we no longer have the constraints on IDA-3. So you can use, I'm told, as much force as you need to complete your work on IDA-3 handrails.
More standby. Yeah, it wasn't fully seated, and the half shell wasn't all the way down on this side.
Say again, on this side?
Yeah, on the side that I could see, the half shell wasn't fully down.
How's it look on your side?
It's flush now. Looking good.
J3 made it over center.
Okay, we copy that, and with that, you can attach the cap back to J300.
And works.
And for both, Nick, if you get to a point where you can hand off the yellow cable and leave with Drew, we can send you off to do some cleanup steps.
And I just did.
Okay, if Drew, if you've got the custody of that and temp stowed someplace, that'll be great. Then we'll have you go on to move the red-white cable from J400 to J4.
Okay, copy.
And Nick, what we'd like you to do
on the temp stow.
Okay, we copy. And Nick, what we'd like you to do is kind of retrace the cable routings and clean up the cables and wire ties as necessary. Avoid unnecessarily covering the handrails, and if possible, try to avoid covering the SVS targets.
Understand. You want that for forward and aft?
Stand by. And just the forward for now, Nick, and once you're happy with that, we'll take a good WVS survey.
Work.
And for Drew, for moving the red-white cable, we'll take a ret on the cap on J4, and you can demate that cap.
Copy.
Spacewalk communicator Mike Barrett walking the crew members through the procedures today, which will demate and rearrange some of the power that was originally given to one section of the IDA, and it will now move it to the side which the U.S. commercial crew vehicles will dock to.
All right, with that, you go to demate Papa 204 from J400.
Okay, demating at J400.
Again, the demating and reconnecting to different sections will shift the power from the hook closure to the other side of the docking adapter.
Demated, fins are still intact, and got a good EMI band, and no FOD.
Okay, it looks good. You go to mate Papa 204 to J4.
Copy. Can work. Made it over center.
Copy, we see it. You can go ahead and pop the cap on J400.
Copy. J400 is capped.
Okay, we see it. It looks great. And Nick, we love what you're doing with the cables there. And Drew, your next step will be to get the red cable. That's Papa 202 on the connector there. Should be temp stowed to you. And we'll want to be sure that, again, your safety tethers aren't trapped as we make this connection. I know it's dark, but do your best to get eyes on those.
Copy.
And for both, about 1.5 minutes to sunrise.
Oh, look at that. Beautiful.
That is great.
White and blue. Hey, WVS, I'm trying to show you what I did for the red and orange cables and some of the other ones that came down on the front of the two. Up to 1, then they get loose because we're waiting to tie all this down on 1602. Cables running in off of C5, and those are right against structure going back to where they come out of the end cone. And
The International Space Station is currently flying 256 statute miles above the Pacific Ocean, headed into an orbital daytime.
With that, you can translate starboard to the aft IDA connector panel, Nick.
Good. And Mike, I've got 202 in hand, and we're taking the cap off of that one.
Okay, that sounds great, and that'll eventually go to J2.
Copy.
That little bump you guys just felt was crossing the equator, by the way. Okay. And for EV1 and 2, we're going to report a historic first with insulation. We have great PWC video, and you guys look marvelous.
oh, news, but it works.
And next steps for Nick, you'll be ingressing the APFR, and you'll be demating the further 3 caps, J7, J8, and J9.
Understand.
Okay, P202, no FOD, good EMI. On the J2 side, called those pins, and those pins are still intact, no FOD. Ready to mate at J2.
And you have a go for J2.
J2's made it over center.
Okay, we copy. And for Nick, we're going to divert you a little bit. We'd like you to go ahead and retrieve the adjustable tethers between PMA handrail 1614 and the IDA tether point and stow those on the cap keeper before you ingress.
Okay.
A view now from Nick Haig's helmet camera of the APFR, which stands for the Articulating Portable Foot Restraints that we've been talking about throughout the spacewalk so far today. Again, the crew will be using those today to restrain their feet at their respective work sites.
And again, we'll want to ensure that no safety tethers are trapped. That will eventually go to IDA J1, and you go to uncap that and stow the cap on the keeper.
Copy. I might be at that point where I need to take the adjustable onto the J2 to IS adjustable and create my 2 additional hooks.
And you have a go for that, Drew.
Hey, Mike, my adjustable series is on the cap keeper.
Okay, I understand. And with that, Nick, your go to ingress the APFR.
Okay, the adjustable is now to the cap keeper assembly. I actually put it to the available hook on the adjustable that is to a French hook. So I have 2 additional hooks.
All right, we copy that. And now hopefully you have room for the cap on P201.
Yep, I have a hook for P201.
And just for status, you guys are right on the timeline, if not a little bit ahead.
Okay, copy. Thank you.
As you just heard, ground controllers here in Mission Control Houston reporting that the crew is a little bit ahead of schedule.
I'm in the APFR.
We copy.
Moving caps G 7, 8, and 9.
And you have a go. And for Nick, we see you working the caps magnificently. The next steps will be to remove the jumpers and make those connections directly to the IDA panel. So just a heads up there.
Copy.
Okay, Mike J1, 05, good EMI. All the pins on J1, they're intact and no FOD.
Okay, with that, you'll be go to mate, Papa 201 to J1.
Copy.
That's the release, Mike.
All right, very good.
Working on jumper removal.
Hey, Mike, J1 has made it over center.
Okay, we copy, Drew, and your next cable will be Papa 2, the yellow cable. And again, we're looking for safety tethers not impaired. And you can take that cap off and stow that on the cap keeper.
Copy.
And for Nick, for demating the first jumper, J6, we'd like you to start with the IDA connection just to make it a little bit easier.
Didn't work.
Okay, Mike, convert. It's E2J2 I'm looking for.
And that's affirmative, Drew.
Whiskey on cable 2287.
And that's a good copy. And for Nick, I think you're in work here, but the first disconnect will be P6 alpha from IDA J6.
And J6 is demated. Also demated the P206 from the jumper. And I'm ready to mate
Okay.
206 on W2288.
If you're happy with the connectors, you have a go to mate 206 to J6.
And I see good EMI bands, good pins, no FOD, ready to mate.
And you have a go.
And Mike, the other end I'm looking for then comes off of the cable coming off of the J2. I've identified it. It has another cap. I come out of hooks. So I'll put this to me.
Okay, we understand. Your go for that, and it'll be a P2 to J2 connection.
Copy.
P206 to J6 made it over center.
Okay, great work, Nick. And next, just go on to the next jumper, tether to that jumper with the cap keeper, and we'll start with the IDA first, demate P5 alpha from J5.
Work.
Okay, Mike, so this additional cap is on an adjustable on my mini workstation, and that connection, there's pins look good, no FOD, and then the P2J2 plug side, good EMI, no FOD. And if you agree, I'll go ahead and make this connection.
Okay, we agree, and your go to connect.
J5 is demated from the jumper. Jumper's removed, and I am ready to mate 205. J5.
You have a go, 205 to J5.
Go. P2J2 is mated over center.
And for EVA for Drew, we would like you, once you finish that connection, to move the cap from your RET to the IDA cap keeper hook that's actually keeping it up there, and then you can let that 10 back to the bag.
Copy. In work.
Mike, A5, P205, made it over center.
All right, we copy, and stand by for you. And Drew, we see a good connection, P2 to J2, and we see you working on that cap.
Mike, I have a request. I think while I have 1 foot in the APFR here, it would be easier for me to clean up these cables on 1602, and then I could put this cap and release the cap keeper. But right now, did you want me to do the final wire tying 1602 and clean this up? Because it's just kind of they were all sort of in a temp stow configuration.
And Drew, we're good with your order. You can go ahead and clean up those cables first, and then get the cap second.
Copy.
And for Nick, you did a great job with those, and we would like you actually to come out of the APFR and go hunt for the blue cable, if you could. That'll be on node 2 handrail 357. That's a longitudinal handrail. It's on the second road down, just port of the PMA 3.
Copy.
That mini workstation referenced several times here in the last couple minutes is a toolbox of sorts attached to the chest. It stores many of the tools that can be used during this spacewalk. So that mini toolbox, that mini workstation, as they mentioned several times, serves as a toolbox on the front of the EMUs.
So Mike, so you're tracking. I'll be dragging this, I'll have to pass it underneath Drew's safety tether. So I am aware.
Okay, you feel like you have good eyes on that, Nick?
Yeah, I'm going to have to fair lead it to go over the top of it, to go over that way, to route it around, and I'll make sure I pass the cable below to make it work.
Okay, we copy, and we're...
Mike, I got it.
Go ahead, Drew.
The blue cable is over on my side. I could get to that one as soon as I'm done cleaning up here, and Nick, the green cable is on his side, and it might deconflict some of the crossing of tethers.
I'm already over underneath here.
Okay, disregard.
I've got eyes on the blue cable.
And for EV2, Drew, you're fine. Just one bundle with wire ties around the whole bundle.
Copy that.
And as much as possible, keep it tight and flush, and try to keep the handrails clear.
Copy that. Okay, Mike, I'll back up and give you a little WVS of how we have that now are tied to Zenith handrail 16, or Zenith extension 1602.
Okay, we're about 30 seconds from WVS views, but that sounds good.
Okay, with that, I'll get out of the APFR and over to retrieve the keepers.
Okay.
I'm just below you. Make sure you put eyes on me.
Copy that, Nick.
And if you're just joining us, we just reached the 3-hour mark in the planned 6.5-hour spacewalk today.
For a Papa 1 connector on that cable.
Allie?
And I'm sorry, that's Papa 208 and J1 on that cable.
See a A1 to P1 labeling. It's called P208 Ethernet and a J1. So there's two ends to this guy.
And that's affirmative.
Select the right guy. Okay, so I'm backing out now some more.
Okay, roger.
And if it makes sense to secure that to handrail 351 on the way, you can do that as needed. Otherwise, we'll be looking for the next handrail 1603.
1603.
Okay, Mike, all caps are on the cap keeper, and released it back to the bag.
Okay, we see that. And just verify, are you out of the APFR now?
I'm out of the APFR.
Okay, we copy. And Drew, your next one will be to retrieve the green cable. That'll be down on handrail 328. And again, we'll be watching out for each other's safety tethers. Want to be sure that Nick is clear of that translation path.
Getting a view now of Nick Hague on the top left side of your screen, bearing the red stripes on his suit, and Andrew Morgan on the right side of your screen. The two of them are still rerouting some cables
1603 right now.
and moving through procedures for the spacewalk today.
Okay, we copy, Nick.
I'm going to throw a wire tie down on 0351. There's a bunch of stuff coming up off the structure there. It'll tighten it up, translation easy.
Earlier this morning, Nick Hague and Andrew Morgan's suits were placed on internal battery power, officially marking the start of today's spacewalk at 7:27 a.m. Central Time as the International Space Station flew 264 statute miles over the Atlantic Ocean.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, that absolutely works.
This is a 3814 handrail.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see. I'm right next to you.
Yep.
So this, I've got it tied down on 1603, but you see how it pulls away from structure back that way?
I do.
Yeah, so 351 down there, there's enough slack to pull it and tie it down there, and then pull some of these other wires a little more. What's the acrylic one that's sticking up? You could tie that one down too. That's a mess. That's the.
Yep.
That's also this loop right here. We could bundle it all down by 351, and then we could actually translate through here pretty easy. Okay. keep running the 814 highway.
And we're following along and agree with everything.
Okay, so here's how this is going to work. You got to watch your safety tether. I'm going to get back on the other side of it. Okay? I clear it. You'll go. Okay? And then I'm going to let this cable, I'm going to hang on to this, and it comes to you. Here we go. Okay, yep, I see a straight line back to it. Let's see the one that you're routing. So right now, you want me to undo the one? Nope, that's all good. Okay, just to add this one. Maybe you can pull that slack down, that loop, and you see the one that's got the twist in it. That's the same cable. It's just got like 4 feet of slack that nobody threw out. Okay. So we can tidy that up a little, I think. And that'll also work to secure down this one. Mike, I've got wire tied down on 1608, moving over to 1614.
Okay, that sounds great, Nick. We've been following the discussion. We like it. We'd like to see the loops drawn out and get the cables a little bit tighter. Once you get that on to 1614, you can get back in the APFR, and we'll call a connection for you.
Okay, sounds good.
A great view now of both of the spacewalkers at work moving through the procedures for today's spacewalk. Again, Nick Hague and Andrew Morgan are continuing to reroute some of these cables to move power to a different side of the International Docking Adapter 3.
And station for EVA, we are seeing what we think might be a little flaking off of the cables, which may be due to them being out there for so long. Just wondering if you have a visual on any shedding or liberating material from the cables.
I haven't noticed anything, but I'll keep looking. Yeah, Mike, I haven't seen anything, but there are these little ties along the way, every couple of inches, and I don't know if it's coming from that or if it's coming from the tape that's labeling the wire ties.
Okay, doke. We copy.
And spacewalk communicator Mike Barrett checking in to see if the crew members noticed any sort of flaking off from the cables. As I mentioned earlier, the cables being routed during the EVA today were brought outside on a previous EVA almost 5 years ago. They've baked in the sun since then, and the cables were expected to be difficult to manipulate and route, but it seems the crew has not had any issues doing so during this spacewalk today.
Mike, I'm in.
Okay, we copy you in, and your next step will be with the blue cable, Papa 208. Again, we want visuals on the safety tethers. You guys have been doing a great job in keeping those clear. make sure those are clear before we mate, and you can remove the cap from Papa 208.
I have the 208 in hand, removing the cap.
And that'll eventually connect to J8.
J8.
All right, I got that tacked down on 30351. And like left index finger glove, the panel of RTV, it was the, from, not the pad of the finger, second one in, or excuse me, the third one in. That panel is now on, is liberated, it is gone, but I see RTV intact underneath. This is the left index finger.
Okay, we copy. The glove check team is talking, and it looks like we're still go.
Copy.
And we definitely appreciate your attention, dude. We're making you use your hands a lot today.
Mike, I've got Papa 208, good EMI bands, no FOD, J8, good pins, no FOD, ready to mate.
And you have a go, Nick.
So,
Mike, I believe I head over to get the green cable over on starboard side.
And your go for that, Drew. You're looking for handrail 328, and again, green cable, Papa 209 on the connector.
Papa 209, copy.
J8, made it over center.
All right, we copy. The next for you, Nick, will be a cable-to-cable connection. You'll be connecting J1 from the blue cable to P1. That also connects to IDA J6, but this is cable-to-cable J1 to P1. You've got 2 caps to remove to stow on the cap keeper to do that.
J1 to P1. Looking for J1. There's J1 hiding. Okay, I think I got the right 2 ends, Mike. Working on caps.
We copy. And for Drew, you're looking for a Papa 209 connector. And for this one, we want to be really mindful of EV1's safety tether, which will be heading down from there to the PMA where his green hook is dropped. The other concern with this one is cable length.
Yep, and Mike, I have tally on P209, and as well as Nick's tether, he's got it really well fair-led here, but we will continue to keep an eye on it.
Okay, sounds great. And we'll just be mindful of the tether length here and try to route this with as little slack as possible.
Copy.
Mike, I'm finally ready to mate P1 to J1. And I see good in my bands. Good pins, no FOD.
Okay, looks good to us. You have a go, Nick.
Needed over center.
Okay, we copy. That looks great. And Nick, next step.
I've got it.
Next step for you is the purple cable. That's Papa 207 that should be temp stowed next to you. And you go ahead and retrieve that. And go ahead, Drew.
And I've got the P209, and it is part of the loop is tacked under the wire tie of another loop. And so I'm going to get that out, and that's going to give us slack that we definitely are going to need.
Okay, we copy, Drew.
Got filled up those cap keepers. I'll put it on the end of one of the adjustables, the adjustable series.
All right, we copy, Nick.
Actually going to split the series and have the two adjustables independent off of the cap keeper. That'll give me another hook for the other cap as well.
Okay, and we agree, Nick.
Zero 0737, read the main good EMI bands, pins no FOD.
Okay, we like it, and you are go to make that connection, Nick.
Work. Needed over center.
Okay, we copy. 207 is mated. And Nick, for next step, that'll be to retrieve that green cable that Drew is working on. Again, we're a little bit concerned with the length of that. And if Nick is able to get that routed under the forward starboard CVM pedal, that'll be great. If there's not sufficient slack, it can go directly to the connector panel. So we'll rely on both of you to let us know how that'll work.
Yeah. Coming your way, Nick.
Okay.
And just a heads up on this, the green cable, we're going to mate it but not throw the lever on that.
Roger. Yeah. Be a little chunk of time to clean up all these cables because there's quite a bit of slack that we've pulled all the way up here just to the base of the IDA.
Okay, we copy. That's definitely where we want the slack, and any cleanup is most appreciated.
Let me take that right.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
That look for slack.
That puts me, that is basically in the mated position. What's that look like?
It's not taut. It has a tiny bit of slack, but it's right behind the grapple fixture. It's not in front of the grapple fixture, but it's behind it.
Is there anything to tie it down to the structure to pull it away from the back of the grapple fixture?
Gonna look here. There's a handrail under the grapple fixture. It would put it over directly over the pedal. If Mike thinks that's acceptable to go directly over the pedal, I might be able to get it tacked down to that handrail. I can go see what number it is.
What if we went on the other side of the grapple fixture? Can we do that? The treater line? No? And this is going to be... it's basically just stretched straight out. There's no way to translate around, is there? Just there's free space.
Yeah, it does. There's just, like I said, maybe just enough slack to tack down. Let me get closer to it and take a look.
And we copy the conversation. If it doesn't go under the CBM pedal, that's okay to go over it. If a handrail is convenient to tack it down, that's great. Otherwise, it could also tack down to cables that are already established there.
I understand, Mike. Basically, it's pulling a straight line from its last wire tie. It's going to come to the panel, and it's going to be sucked up to the back of the grapple fixture. It's not even going to come close to the CBM pedal.
Okay, we copy. And Drew, you probably already did this, but just to verify, there's no further wire ties down there on the Node 2 handrail that might be released and give us a little bit of slack.
Go in for a closer look.
Mike, did you want me to press with removing the cap and putting it in soft dock? Or we
Stand by, Nick.
hold and see how much slack we have?
Nick, you go to make the soft dock. And just a reminder, do not throw the lever.
Copy. Don't throw the lever.
And just for both, Robo's preparing to back away. So if you see that T-Rex receding, that's all per the plan.
Copy all.
So Mike, I have eyes on this all the way down the end cone, and it's really fixed the end cone nicely. And then there's on the end cone handrail, there's a wire tie, and it continues on to IDA 2, actually tacked down very nicely. So there's, without releasing a wire tie, it might get us a little bit more, but not much. Right now, I think, Nick, the other side of the grapple fixture kind of looks like it would be equivalent, I think.
Yeah. And it's in soft dock now.
Okay. So if it's in soft dock, this one under the grapple fixture, I can put it down on this underneath here. It would be under a little bit of tension.
All right, we copy, and you're doing just what we were talking about. If you can tack that down to some of the cables that are right there, and with a little bit the tension off, that'll work out just fine.
So, Mike, the cables you'd like to tack it to, the cables we've already run up, or are we talking on the Note 2 end cone?
We were thinking the cables that were already there, but if you can also get it to the handrail 1600, that would work as well.
Okay, yeah, and 1600 was the one, now that I have eyes on it, 1600 is the one underneath the graph picture that we were considering, so that looks like, Nick, are you still soft docked?
Yeah, I'm soft docked, but I can see you side loading it, so you may want to...
Now just shy of 3 hours and 30 minutes into today's spacewalk. Recapping some of the milestones from today, the crew was awakened just after 1 a.m. Central Time, and 2 hours later, they were suited up to begin a series of leak checks on the suits before beginning pre-breathe procedures to breathe pure oxygen, cleansing the nitrogen out of their bloodstreams to prevent decompression sickness from occurring once they stepped outside the Quest airlock. The crew then moved to a period of in-suit light exercise, moving their legs and arms to increase their metabolic rate, which would assist in cleansing any extra nitrogen out of their bloodstreams following those pre-breathe procedures. After those in-suit light exercises concluded, NASA astronaut Christina Cook began fixing the crew's mini workstations to the front of their extravehicular mobility units, or EMUs, as the acronym goes by. Cook and Luca Parmitano of the European Space Agency then began to fix what are called safer backpacks to the spacewalk crew's suits.
Free to work down there and try to deconflict that cable the best possible.
The crew was then assisted through the hatchway to the crew lock of the Quest airlock to begin depressurization. And after depressurization concluded, Nick Hague and Andrew Morgan's suits were placed on internal battery power, officially marking the start of today's spacewalk at 7:27 a.m. Central, as the International Space Station flew 264 statute miles over the Atlantic Ocean.
There will be that cable and the cleanup that you were already working on up at the IDA.
Since the official start time, the crew attached a series of cables between IDA-3 and PMA-3 to provide power and data connections between PMA-3 and the International Docking Adapter itself. Once those cables were routed, Christina Cook, working from a control panel inside the Harmony module, sent commands to close the hooks and form a hard mate between the IDA-3 and PMA-3. Crew's now continuing to move through procedures to complete cable demating and rerouting to supply power to the portion of the IDA where future commercial crew vehicles will dock.
And station for EVA, just some big words, big picture words. You guys are on the timeline. You're 3:30 in, and we're looking at a 6:25 EVA. And we think we'll probably have time for the S0 thrust jumper, but we want to get your quick assessment and be sure how much juice you have left.
Things are going well. How you doing, Drew?
I'm doing well.
Yep. That sounds reasonable.
Okay, we copy. We'll press.
Mike, Mike, I'm back up the forward side in proximity to the...
Dexter is now backing away from the International Docking Adapter 3.
Okay, great. And we're just looking for cable routing and clean up the best we can. Use additional wire ties if you need to. And again, try to avoid covering SVS targets if possible.
Copy. Mike, for the bundle coming off of the forward panel, I can add another to the zenith expansion of the 1601 handrail. That would help hold it all again a little bit closer to PMA.
All right, we concur, Drew. Good plan.
And we're starting to see the gap now between the Dexter, special purpose dexterous manipulator, and the grapple fixture on IDA 3 as it continues to back away.
And for EV1 and 2, about a minute to a handover.
Okay, copy, Mike. Copy.
We're in a short handover period between satellites right now, but should be regaining communications here shortly.
We're going, Nick. It's a mess. A lot of extra cables.
Yeah.
A lot of extra cable length. I've given up on not clobbering this handrail.
These pre-integrated wire ties are making it really, really challenging.
Exactly where you don't need them.
And Nick, I think the priority is to keep it tightly adherent to PMA, so, right, and as close to structure as possible.
Yeah, affirmative. Okay. Mike, you with us?
Yeah, we sure are. We've been watching your work, and we like it a lot, and we're following your discussions, and we agree we want that as flush as we can. And for Nick, we'll take a glove and hat check now that you got a pause going.
Sure. It's dry. Those are good. I did, so the thing I've noticed is that I guess the EVA tape overwrap on the cables, some of has been fraying, and that stuff has been floating away. You can see some of it stuck to my hand. I don't know if that's what you were seeing earlier, but my gloves, no change to the gloves.
Okay, we copied. Dry hab, no change to the gloves, and we did see a little bit liberate there, just as you were saying.
So, Mike, trying to give you a decent WVS survey of the routing here. I'm looking at the three cables coming up the 1603, 1608, 1614, and then around the handrail 1614. Let me pull up all the slack from everything above it. Those all look to be in a decent config. You guys agree?
All right, Nick, great work. Your cable config looks real good. We're not sure about that green cable. I know you're holding off on that. I think that's the only one that looks to be in needing of a little of attention, but otherwise great work.
I'll give you another perspective on that green cable. I don't know if you can see it. My WVS as it runs behind the grapple fixture right now. It's stable for you.
Okay, that looks about as...
If you pulled the taut line between the two places, it would it'd go straight through the grapple fixture.
All right, we copy, Nick, and we understand. We'll get that cleaned up once we throw the lever at the end there. For now, we'd like you to go down to the port side and pull out the one remaining loop down there.
Hey, Mark.
Okay, Mike, I've got the bundle of cables going to the forward panel now. They are wire tied to both the zenith and the nadir extension of 1601. It's pretty tame on the way up for a couple of these wire ties, the integrated wire ties sticking out.
Okay, we understand, Drew.
I'm over the top of your safety tether right now.
And for Drew, just verify you used one extra wire tie. Is that correct?
Oh, I was able to line up this pre-integrated one here, and I wrapped the bundle with a pre-integrated one at the stanchion.
Okay, we copy that. And obviously, guys are at nighttime, but Drew, we'd like a WVS survey if we can, and to get a good look at the zenith aspect in particular.
Copy. All right, so this is the nadir here, MA.
We see it, and it looks good.
And then this is the bundle at the zenith, 1602.
Okay, we're looking at it.
A view from helmet camera number 11, which is Nick Haig's helmet camera. He is bundling some cables right now as Nick and Andrew continue to run through procedures for the spacewalk today.
And when you've got the entirety of it VMS for us, then we'll take a glove and hap check for you.
Copy. That original flap on my right index finger is still there. It's still attached. The flap on the right thumb panel is still attached, and nothing new. And then on the left one, the left thumb panel, that one is still attached as well. I mentioned the one on the left index finger, second panel in, that panel separated itself. There's RTV intact underneath. And then on the left palm, the RTV in the center, in between the index finger and the thumb, there's a flap developed there as well. Tap is dry.
Okay, we copy dry hap and the words on the gloves. With this all being RTV, we're still good to continue, Drew.
I got the loop out of one cable that you pointed out. It's all a little more flush now.
Okay, great.
Pull up a lot of slack up the side of node 2 as well.
Okay, great work. And for both, the arm is in motion, although you have to stare at it a while to convince yourself of that. But it is backing away. Nick, your next step will be to get a inventory of the cap keepers.
The arm is now in motion to back the Dexter away from the grapple fixture on the International Docking Adapter 3.
Over there.
And station for EVA, Drew, your next step will actually be a capkeeper inventory as well. And your capkeeper is tended back to the bag, so you know exactly where it is.
Copy.
Hey, Mike, so I've got the cap keeper. I'll start with the bit of the bag. There's a ret from the lid to the cap keeper, and all hooks have caps. And then there is an adjustable to one of the hooks, and there's a cap on each end of the adjustable. And then the one adjustable hook that was available has an additional, so I can give you a total tally count of all the caps.
Okay, we copy, Drew. That's a good inventory, and we'll take next.
10 caps, it looks like. I think that looks correct.
Okay, that's a good number, and we'll get report from Nick.
Hey, Mike. Mike, I've got one cap keeper with 7 caps on it. The second cap keeper, I've got an adjustable with a cap on the end. I've got one adjustable with jumpers attached. I've got an adjustable with a cap on it. And I've got one or 5 caps in addition to the ones I already called out.
And Nick, we copy all. We think we should have one more cap. We should have a total of 14. We think we counted 13.
So I've got 7 on one cap keeper, 5 on French hooks on the second cap keeper, and 2 on the end of adjustables. There's 14 caps. There's 3 adjustables and 2 jumpers.
Okay, that is great. Good numbers. You can go ahead and stow that cap keeper.
This is the 4th adjustable time. Tim stowing it down. So Okay, copy. I'll stow away.
All right, great work, Nick. And then just for next step, once you get that stowed, you'll be going down to PMA2 to pick up your green hook.
Copy. Some more that's coming back
Yep,
to the
back.
Okay, on its way.
Is the release hook still available on here for me, or is it?
Yeah, no, there should be a free end, an adjustable.
Yep, I see it.
People makes for a nice translation now.
And Drew, next step for you will be to get an inventory of the large ORU bag.
Yeah, so we've covered cap keepers, and the where is deployed. I will start as you face the lid on the left, and I've got a GoPro camera on an adjustable and a RET to the reflector bag, and then I have a RET to a large small adjustable. And down to the right side as you face the lid, we have elongation tie-down tethers and gap check tool, scraper tool connected to them.
We're in a short handover period between satellites right now, but we should be gaining communications back here shortly.
And Station Houston for EVA back with you after a short handover. Drew, we copied the inventory and we accounted for everything, so well done on that. And your next step will be for the H fixture MLI.
Copy.
And Nick, once you pick up your green hook, we'll have you retrieve the portable wireless camera as well.
Okay, understand. Green hook is up.
Okay, we copy that. With the wireless camera, we'll have you close the lens cover first and RET to the camera, and then retrieve that along with the adjustable on handrail 405. And Drew, just a note, as you're heading up to the H fixture, you're going to be doing this reverse origami to fold that thing over it. But while you're nearby that, you'll be releasing the IDA thermal cover straps on the port side of the cover when you can reach those at your convenience.
Okay, copy. And the reflector trunnions, remind me, is that acceptable to, is that no touch, or is that acceptable to touch?
And you can translate on the trunnions, no problem. And just a reminder that the OTCM is just a couple of feet above you there.
Copy, see it.
One of the tasks for the spacewalk today is the removal of the thermal cover on the IDA to install a pair of reflectors on the new IDA, which will serve as the new docking cues, amongst others, for the approaching commercial crew vehicles.
Mike, I was going to put 1 foot in the APFR for this, if that's acceptable.
And that's a good plan, Drew.
Hagen Morgan will also place a cover on the grapple fixture of the IDA, to which the special purpose dexterous manipulator grappled onto 2 days ago to extract the IDA from the trunk of SpaceX Dragon. It was then maneuvered into its pre-install position just a few feet away from PMA 3 for today's installation. And we have a view of Dexter leaving the bottom of the screen right now as it backs away from the IDA 3.
Okay, FH fixture.
All right, Nick, we see you stowing the camera in the large ORU bag. After that, we'll be looking for a quantity of wire ties in your caddy and on your BRT before we hedge off.
Okay. Hey, Mike, UVS survey of the fixture MOI.
Okay, it looks good from here. We do have a pretty good view of it, and if you're happy, we're happy on it. And while you're there, release whatever IDA thermal cover straps on the port side of the cover that you can get.
Copy, I've released 1400.
Again, one of the next milestones in the spacewalk today will be the removal of the large multi-layer insulation cover over the end of the IDA. Removing that will expose the passive soft capture system. The soft capture ring with 3 guide pedals, 3 latch strikers, and 3 soft capture sensors will serve as the docking targets for the new commercial crew vehicles during final approach for contact and capture.
To contact any of the ceiling surfaces. And you are going to stow the IDA reflector bag outside.
A view now from Andrew Morgan's helmet cam number 18. He is now undoing some straps that will help remove the insulation cover on the IDA.
For next steps for Nick, once we get the number of wire ties you have on your caddy and your BRT, you'll be picking up the APFR from WIF 5.